So, welcome to the tape group. I'm really excited, happy that you're here, and it's great to step into another episode of the tape group, of the beautiful tapes, the Tree of Life, New Testament, Bible references, the tapes with like a lot of biblical references, like all tapes of Joel, but this one is the ones that we use for this series are full of them. And so it's nice to see these Bible phrases be refreshed in your memory, because now with your new development, new mind, you could say, new consciousness, everything sounds different and is different. So you hear things that you didn't hear before, and so that's always good. It's like it's always expanding in the way that things can come to you, by you being open to let that occur, of course. And but that's why you're here. So that's really lovely. And so today we use the tape Raising Up the Son of God, and to a certain extent we need to find a direction in that. Raising up the Son of God. And then there's something that comes after that, and that will give the direction. So this is, we use this very specifically today, I can tell you that. It's like we use it very specific because it needs to have like a full direction. What I mean with that is, like, if it isn't your raising up the Son of God in you, then it would be worthless. It's like, so it has to be in you that this is happening, in your consciousness that this is happening. And so that's why it is like, yeah, it is essential to hear this right. So everything that we do today has to do with that, in fact, because when you listen to Joel in this tape, you might think that, for instance, we need to follow someone like Moses, or we need another Jesus to like lift this up all together. And then it's like, well, that has happened, and that's now the recognition needs to come from within you, and that is your sole responsibility. It's like, it's literally the one thing that needs to be recognized by you in order to have a spiritual life, you could say. It's the one step that you take, recognizing that this has to do with you. Now here, so there's a lot of healing possible today in the meeting. I'm serious about that. It's like there's a lot of healing possible because, in fact, it is the recognition, for one thing, that we can talk about. Yeah, we're aware that we're in a dream, and that's a really good start. So Joel uses it today as 3 stages where you go through in your spiritual development. So one of them is recognizing that you're in a dream. And now you can say, like, yeah, we're all in a dream and we're all dreaming. Or like, yeah, the nature of this is a dream, like the nature of this world is a dream. And so here again is the same thing. It's like, if you think that we are in a dream, then you're mistaken. Because the thing is that you are in a dream, and that you're the dreamer of that dream. That's why you are also the light of this world. That's why it is individually, subjective, completely within you that this is occurring. It is not happening, and you know this from Joel, it's like it is not happening in another consciousness. No, there's only your consciousness, and this is happening in your consciousness. So the first recognition is then, I'm dreaming this dream. I'm the dreamer of this dream. Here is the part in which salvation is possible. And I recognize, when I come to, say, discernment, you could say, and what happens is I recognize myself as the light of this world, because it is my world. It is not someone else's world. It is my world. And so this is coming back during the meeting a couple of times. Like, we use it in the meditation that we do, which is like Joel is the facilitator of that meditation. And then we have a preparation for the listening to the tape. We listen to the last half hour of the tape, which has like the most of bring it back to individual responsibility, really, and making sure that you got what this is about. That's what Joel does in say in the last 30 minutes of the talk. So that's a bit of the program today, and that's why there's a lot of healing possible, because in the acceptance of you as the dreamer of the dream, something can really shift for yourself. So we don't have to wait for an Moses or an who knows who to follow, not even for Joel to follow, or for Jesus to follow, in the sense of, okay, he will bring it on. It's like, no, it's about my individual recognition of this all. That's where, when I start to accept this, when I start to demonstrate this, my world will lighten up. Literally, the Son of God needs to be raised in my consciousness. All right, so this is all good news. This is great. So
the raising up in you of the Son of God is the attainment of your demonstration. Your demonstration is not good health or good wealth or good companionship or good home. Your demonstration is not freedom. Your demonstration is the raising up of the Son of God in you. And it is attained through the first stage, in which you make yourself consciously aware of the presence and power and influence of God. Entering the second stage, where you realize your inadequacy as a human being, and you consciously make effort to fulfill yourself in those 10 commandments and make of yourself a worthy human. And with the combination of these two, this transitional experience of the raising up of the Son of God in you takes place. When it does, and even in a measure, you have this experience, this feeling of the presence, you can then say, I live, yet not I. There is a spirit in me that doeth the work. The Father within me, he doeth the works. The Father, the presence, goes before me to make the crooked places straight. This presence goes to prepare mansions for me. I of my own self can do nothing, but oh, the Father within me, he really doeth the works. And I abide in stillness, in quietness. I abide in peace, knowing that as I go about my work all day long, there is another presence working with me, in me, through me, an invisible, and an outer sense, an intangible, but a very, very real substance activity. And I, in my own work, in my own life, I call it grace. Grace. I call it a living by grace. I call it all things being done by grace.
thank you, everyone. Thank you for the meditation, for being still with me. So we're, say, getting ready to prepare ourselves for listening to Joel, and that's meditation was certainly a part of that. Now, you saw in In the second stage that Joel's describing in the meditation too, it's like he describes the second part as a recognition of the individual failure of you in your humanhood. Like you have to admit to that. Like that is also a part of the steps that we take. Admitting like, I don't know how to do this. Like if I would be able to raise the Son of God in me, I would already have done it. And I cannot do it. Like that is not something that I do. No, I'm literally in my humanhood. I'm completely surrounded in my human ideas. I believe what I see. I have ideas about it. I compare myself. I compete. I do all kinds of things. Like that has nothing to do with your true nature. So you see that there's others. You are responding to your neighbor as if he is someone else with a different opinion or a different idea. All of this, like that's essential to admit. Like that's not oneness. Oneness doesn't know differentiating. Oneness doesn't know about someone else. Like you can make a whole list of what it isn't, and you recognize that. So here, the admission that you cannot do this, that you literally fail to raise up the Son of God in you, is not a show of failure. No, it's in fact an admission to, this is how it is for me. Like I cannot do that. I need help here. That needs to come to me. I'm willing to do anything for it. Now Joel brings it back to behaving like a good human or something like this. He said in the second phase. But I want to take it a little further because I know that Joel is bringing it further too. He brings it to the idea, what we later see also in the meditation. It's like grace. I call it grace. It is happening by grace. Like it comes to me by grace. It works through me and in me and uses me in order to express itself. But I'm not that. I'm not that in my description of myself. I'm not that as a human being. I cannot do that. I wouldn't know what to say. What would I say to anyone in my humanhood? For instance, to come to peace. If I would know what to say, coming from my own rationale and intelligence that I think I have, what has that given you? What was the benefit of that so far? Did that work out for you? Like these things need to be honestly looked at. And Joel in the meditation gives an overview that's always a bit tricky in a certain sense, because it is like, well, you have to go through all these steps. You have to go through the recognition, and you have to see what it is that you're doing. What are you trying to do? You want to come into the attainment of the Son of God in you. Well, that is something that you cannot do by yourself. You would not be able to do that. And that's not a sign of failure, as I said. It's like, it's not a sign of failure. No, you're literally part of the construct of this dream of you. You're part of that construct because you place yourself in it. And you correlate with parts of that dream as if you're the one that really is in there, and that is you. And that's a recognition that you have of yourself. You think that you are you. Now that's quite something else, isn't it? So here it is then. It's like to raise the Son of God in you, let that occur within you, to have that being realized in you, makes it that you recognize and you can say, I of my own self can do nothing. And that is the admission. Is that a statement of failure? No, not at all. Not at all. No, because otherwise you miss out on all the gifts that are given to literally fulfill you in your beingness. Like, it is not your function to do things. It is not your function to do things in your own way. No, your function is to do the works of the Father. And you don't know how to do that. That is inspired. That is given to you. That is exactly given to you in its brightness, in its loveliness, in its moment by moment guidance. So we love the kind of like obedient sounding expression of I of my own self can do nothing. But we can also at the same time, this is how paradoxical it is, we can also be kind of like maybe not angry but irritated about the fact that we think that our meditation isn't that helpful or not as what it should be. Now we can judge ourselves for that. Now that's not going to be helpful, because then you literally have a conflict. For one thing you say like, no, it's my Father who doeth the work, and the other moment you say like, well, I should have done that better. I failed again. Like, no, it's not as fruitful as I thought. So how are you measuring the raising up of the Son of God in you? How are you measuring that? With your health? Joel says, no, it's not with your health. With your freedom? No. With your wealth? No, absolutely not. With any of those aspects that you recognize as, say, attributes of your humanhood? No, you cannot evaluate that. So the raising up of the Son of God of you is an experience of fulfillment that is different altogether. It's different because it's total. It is inclusive, totally inclusive of you and everyone else. So it's not the individual part is you experiencing it, but it will include everything. And that's unimaginable for a human being, or for a human mind. Like literally you can't imagine that. Simple as that. You cannot imagine that everything is included. Because you might like it that some things are included, but other things you don't want to include. And you're like right in the web of discovering what are the differences and what is helpful and what isn't helpful. And how am I supposed to do this? It's like you're in the middle of that comparison in your human idea of yourself. But coming to the admission, I have no idea. I don't even know what is good and what is bad. I don't know what is helpful and not helpful. I don't know what is loving and not loving. I don't know what forgiveness is really. I really don't know what salvation is. I don't even know who I am in this. So with that admission, something can occur, because now, in fact, you admit to that, which is a great step forward, because now it can be shown to you how to do it, what it is, by your communication with your inner self, like with your inner spirit. Now it can be shown to you what it is, instead of you determining or defining what it is, or that you should know it now because you read all the books of Joel. It's like, no, that's not how that works. That would be a mental comparison, or your intellect speaking to you, and you know that is not fruitful at all. For a moment it can help to learn, say, to let your mind be directed in a certain direction, but it is not the answer itself. Joel says this today, for instance, with the expression, and we'll come to that in the sheets that I made, but it's like truth doesn't heal. Like you can read as much about truth, but that in itself doesn't heal. And he goes on with more examples, like that is not helpful. That is not what it's going to do. That is not what it's going to do. And then you have like, okay, so what is it that is going to do it? And then you come to this point where you see that I have to give up my ideas of what I think it is, what is helpful, or what I think that Joel means, trying to figure out what he means, trying to work it out, how to look at anything, but giving that up and recognizing that is not a helpful activity. I need to stop that. Like, I need to ask for help in this. Let it be shown to me. I receive that. I allow that the Son of God be raised in me by not knowing anything, in fact, about this, but letting truth speak to me. Your demonstration, raising up the Son of God in you, from this tape that we're listening to later on. Oh yeah, here it is. Like, truth does not heal. Truth does not enrich. Truth does not improve. Truth does nothing. But truth realized does everything. So where does it need to be realized? In your consciousness, not anywhere else. So truth does not heal. Truth does not enrich. Truth does not improve. Truth does nothing. Truth realized in your consciousness, in your individual consciousness, does. God does nothing for this world. So how can the world be saved then? It's like, wow, God does nothing for this world, but how can it be saved? Because it's such a mess. Now, how do we do that? What is going to save this world? Well, you can say, like, who is going to do that? And like I said in the beginning, it's like, well, whose world is it? Whose world is it? Whose world are you looking at? Through which eyes are you looking at this world? Your own eyes, right? So here again, is bringing it back to you. It's your individual consciousness. What are you perceiving? Well, this is your world. You made it up. It's like, this is how it looks. You're the only hope of bringing light into this world. If you start with that, you make great progress. Like, yes, I'm the light of the world. If there's in any situation any hope, it would be me bringing it into it. I don't have to wait for others to do that. I don't have to wait for a great prophet to do it. I don't have to wait for Jesus to return back into this world to take care of it for us. No. So it brings it back to me. I have to recognize that I'm the light of the world since I invented this world. I'm the one seeing it. There's nobody else seeing that. I'm seeing that. So like I said, this is a great healing lesson, because this recognition is what is going to save your world. And this recognition that truth needs to be realized in your consciousness is what's going to bring light into your world. It will save it, literally. And you are its only hope for that. And not that you know how to do that. No, but truth realized knows. Truth realized in your consciousness shows you the way of how to do that. And what is its main substance, its main energy? Grace. Grace takes care of it. Grace is the answer. Grace is your guiding light. Grace is the confirmation that you allow the light to, say, flow into this world for it to be saved. Grace is literally the experience, your individual experience. Now, how can you experience grace? Well, you will have to say, come to the point where you admit, like, I have no idea how to do this. I don't even know how to experience grace. I don't know how to do any of this. I admit that. Now grace can come to me. and it will take me over. It will show me what to do, where to go, what to say, and how to extend this love of God into this world. I don't have to make it up. I don't have to. No, I'm just available. Like I'm an instrument, as Joel would say. I'm an instrument, this animated character that brings light into the world, and just to save the world, to save the world that I have made. But you see how full this talk is too. It's like it's always the whole message. The whole message is being shared. That's amazing. So therefore, the letter of truth, which is so necessary, is necessary not to heal or to correct or to reform. No, we have made that mistake, like in the Science and Health, like Mary Baker really thought that needed to happen. No, we're not using the letter of truth to heal, to correct or reform. No, it's necessary to bring about an evolution or revolution or an evolving of your consciousness from its material base into the spiritual base. We ask for a rebirth within you to come to, literally to come to your sanity. Now, as we would abide in that, live with it, keep it active in our consciousness, it changes our consciousness from its material base, brings it over to a spiritual foundation. And then the miracle that happens is this: we are given the power of discernment. See, this is like literally it's being brought back into our memory, you could say. It's like into our present memory is the power of discernment. And see, that is a direct and open gift that is yours, like that is already yours. So it is not an accomplishment. It is already yours, and it is extending. It was just covered up by your ideas about how everything is working, and by your tendency to defend what you have attained or possessed, thinking that needs to be held on to, instead of letting it go and letting it freely flow back to you, flowing through you in a whole different light. Like Joel says, an evolution needs to take place from the material to the spiritual, and this is one of the phases. It's the phase where you actually allow that to occur, and the result of that is like the return of the power of discernment. So that's a lot. Huh? That's quite something. Like so much is in here in this talk. So that is so full. It's beautiful. So there's a lot to learn, so to speak. Learning in the sense of seeing what needs to be let go of. Like it is necessary to bring about an evolution or an evolving of your consciousness from its material base to its spiritual. And you need help to do that, because you wouldn't know how to do that. You're not the one that will, say, give away a house and walk up the street with a little for the first day and see how it all ends. It's like that is also not necessary, but it is necessary to allow a change to occur about who you think you are, what the nature is of this dream that you're in, and who is responsible for that dream. Because you might not even like the dream that you're in, thinking that it is something caused you to be in a dream that you don't like. Now, bringing that back to yourself, you recognize that you cannot be a victim of this, but that literally, it's like you are the dreamer of this dream. You don't like what you dream? No. The only way out of that is to wake up. and see that you were the dreamer. There has to be, I wrote this down just to make this very clear. Joe is saying this in the talk. There has to be a Jesus Christ to heal the sick, to raise the dead, to forgive the sinners. In other words, this spiritual discernment must be individualized as one of us, a man on earth, a woman on earth. Well, in this case, I want to make it really personal. There has to be a Jesus Christ to heal the sick. Like that can only be one, which is you, in your consciousness. So it's not like, oh, someone else will take care of it. No, this comes back to you. The spiritual discernment must be individualized as one, in me. You could say, in me, not in one of us, but in me. So that's really important to recognize that. Otherwise, we're all waiting for the Savior to come to us. And we did that. And he came and he took care of it. You're saved, you're whole. He's ready to assist you, to stand next to you, but you are the one who has to pick this up in your individual consciousness. It is that reason that this entire class is lifted up higher than itself, higher than it was before it came together. In other words, where two or more are gathered together in my name, there am I, the Son of God. The raising up in you of the Son of God is the attainment of your demonstration. Well, here you have it. The raising up in you of the Son of God is the attainment of your demonstration. So, is that your neighbor's demonstration? No. Is that my demonstration? No. That is your demonstration. Like, this can only be demonstrated through you. That's your individual responsibility. And the responsibility lies in the fact of the admittance of the steps that we were talking about, admitting that you have no idea how to do that. Great. Now it can be shown to you. Wonderful. Day one of the reborn you as an say, bright awakened consciousness, and extending yourself into the world that you have invented and literally that you're the dreamer of. Now, and you're very conscious of your part in it. Like you have the main role in it. You're the only hope of light into this world. Now, when you start giving that away, you see that will come back to you. But it first needs to be given. In your recognition, in your giving, in you extending yourself as the light of the world, you receive that, like immediately. You receive that. That's why, like this works by grace. You're starting to experience grace when you start giving this away. So that is how this works. Like, you give it away, you extend it, you give it. You don't even know how to do that, but it will be shown to you just by your inspiration or by your willingness to give this away. It can be given to you. In that same moment it will happen. That's the beauty of this. And you don't believe it. So until you have that experience. And you know this. I know that you know this. I know that you were practicing with this. I know that. And which is great. It's like recognizing that you're responsible for this, what is occurring. And say, literally stepping back, or it's like, it's not I, it's the Christ in me that doeth the work. Like, grace is at work here. I have nothing to do with that in that sense. I'm just giving it away. I'm just allowing it to flow through me in whatever way, in whatever form. If it is in a tree of life, a moment together, yes, I love to do that. Sure, here it is. Like, I love to give the light, extend the light that is flowing through me, extending that into this world and see what occurs. So not for the result of it, but for my recognition of taking responsibility. So that's the most important part. So now Joel is going to share something with us. So we are listening to a little bit more than the last half hour, where he literally brings all this again into line and directs us. So let's listen to that.
Represents higher and higher degrees of humanhood. The fact of less strikes in our entire Western world, of greater mediation in that direction. All of these things show the greater desire to wipe out crime. You will notice right now the great drive that there is to wipe out the narcotic trade, the illegal narcotic trade, and thereby stop this continuance of bringing about drug addiction. Now, some years back, it seemed to have been nobody's business that this was going on. It just went on and went on and went on, and in most countries. But some 20-odd years ago, this subject was taken seriously in England, and the illegal drug traffic has been eliminated. At least 99% of it has. And drug addiction is down to where their last year's figures showed, in a population of 40 million people, 168 drug addicts. That's less than we can find on one street in some of our cities. Now, they found a way to eradicate it. And certain interests over here have prevented its introduction into the United States, in spite of the fact that there is a public clamor for the eradication of this trade and of this addiction. But at this present moment, these authorities that have been heretofore successful in keeping us from solving that problem, for reasons which you can guess, are gradually losing out. And the method tried and proved in England is now being introduced into the United States. It is true, it is being introduced with opposition from certain quarters, but on the other hand, it is being introduced because the mass of our citizenship is sufficiently interested to really be forcing the issue. And so it is. I could go for hours and tell you of my travels in every part of the world and show you that regardless of the troubles that exist on the surface, that underneath the evolutionary process is going on of a lifting toward higher humanhood. And you may for the moment say, what about Africa? And Africa is one of my best proofs, because the conditions that existed there are being broken up. And even though they're being broken up with some bloodshed, so was our American Revolution brought to its climax with bloodshed. So was our Civil War, so was our Spanish-American War. As long as we are not completely in the second stage, the only way of solving some of these matters is with force. But notice that in spite of that, in spite of the force, that greater freedom is reaching a greater number of people. Notice also that parts of the world that our Western world never concerned themselves with years ago are now our concern. Notice also that places where there are large, hungry populations are receiving more care and attention from the Western world than would have been true in past. In other words, it is really and truly so that we as a world are entering that second stage. Probably one of the reasons for it is that so many more people are entering the third stage, and they are the ones who are influencing the mass consciousness, lifting it up shall we say, lifting up the Son of God in human consciousness. Now, I, if I be lifted up, shall draw all men unto me. In other words, in proportion as I myself am lifted up into divine sonship, do I attract those to me and lift them into some measure of that sonship. So it is then that we, in whatever degree we are raised in spiritual sonship, in spiritual harmony, we are dragging up every part of this world with us in some measure. And that gives them the opportunity of grasping and going forward. I am fully convinced that the only reason we are now finding the large audiences that we find for this spiritual work, and without sending for anyone, without advertising, is that human consciousness itself is crying out to be lifted up. And of course, the first stage it has to be lifted into is the second stage of better humanhood, and then from there on into the depth of humanhood, into our spiritual identity. Now watch this, because every bit of our spiritual life is going to follow this pattern. In our first metaphysical life, if we are wholly honest with ourselves, we will admit that our desire is to attain health instead of sickness, abundance instead of lack, companionship instead of loneliness, freedom instead of slavery, harmony instead of discord. And it is for this reason that our earliest stages of this life result in exactly that, an improved state of humanhood. It is only after we have had experience upon experience of increased humanhood and improved humanhood that we say, I still feel something missing. My good health doesn't seem to have given me what I expected of it, or my increased supply doesn't satisfy me, and now I'm sure that even if you double it, that isn't going to satisfy me. Something is missing, and that is when we are ready for that transition from the good humanhood into the death of humanhood and the birth of our spirituality. We speak of dying daily. We speak of putting off mortality, but we do not realize that we mean dying to the good humanity, the good mortality, or putting off complete mortality, even that which is healthful. But that is really what happens. And then begins an era of spiritual living. And here is where you are prepared for the master statement, my kingdom is not of this world. And you commence to realize that you are now in a state of consciousness where you are not experiencing just more and better of the human things of life, but that a new factor has come into life, a new joy. The only way probably that this can be explained is that in our humanhood, we experience pleasure or joy or satisfaction by something that takes place out here. It has to have an objective something to spur it. In other words, if we awaken on Christmas Day and find ourselves especially blessed with wonderful gifts, it arouses a joy in us. Or on our birthday, or perhaps sometime when it's neither Christmas nor birthday, if somebody remembers us beautifully and handsomely, it awakens us a pleasure, a joy, a response. Or if some activity has been successful, we feel a joy. In other words, our joy is prompted from an outer occurrence. But as long as this is true, remember that our sorrow also is spurred by an outer occurrence. In other words, instead of this good that brought joy, the absence of it brings sorrow. And so we are always victims of either sorrow or joy caused by an objective external influence. Whereas, from the moment that this transitional experience starts, joy is something that bubbles up from within without any outer cause, without any outer reason. It is not spurred by anything. It is not prompted by anything. It is a state of being which is incorporated in one. Optimism isn't there because there are some good signs of good crops ahead. Optimism is there because the presence of God is there. And where there is the presence of God, one is absolutely aware of the fact that only good can unfold. There can be no question of that. Now, in this third experience, watch for this. Not only you are not seeking an outer world experience, not only you are not trying to demonstrate an outer world experience, but on the contrary, you receive the inner conviction that this deep breath or click or inner release or peace, that this itself is the demonstration. That when you have attained it, you have attained your goal. You have not attained it for a purpose out here. You have attained it for itself, and it produces the experience on the outer, but this follows just like daylight accompanies the sun. Now, the sun doesn't come and then afterward produce light, but it is the sun itself which constitutes the light. And so it is, you will discover that there is no God to give you health or supply or companionship. There is no God to give you anything. There is a God. And when this spirit is consciously realized, it is the very substance. It is that which constitutes the outer experience. So then, as the sunshine does not come and give us light, but the sunshine is the light, so the grace of God which we receive within does not produce something in the outer plane, but the grace of God we attain within is the very substance of the good that is to appear outwardly. And therefore, there is no such thing as the presence of God and a discord. There is no such thing as the presence of God and inharmony. There is no such thing as the presence of God and lack or limitation. God is the meat, the wine, the water, the bread. God is the peace. God is the comfort. God is the health. God is the health of thy countenance, Scripture says. Not God will give you health. God is the health of your countenance. And it does not say God will give you supply. God is supply. And therefore, the only experience necessary is that third stage of our spiritual unfoldment, when we have, even if it's a momentary realization of God, even if it's a momentary in a click, don't look outward for anything to happen. Remain satisfied. Now the Spirit is there. Its formation is one with it. Spirit, remember this, spirit and its outer activity is one. Spirit and its formation is one. spirit and its creation is one. Spirit does not create in the sense of there being a spirit here and a creation here. Spirit is the substance that appears outwardly as form, not as what we see, hear, taste, touch, or smell as form, but as form. What we see, hear, taste, touch, and smell represents but our concept of that spiritual presence that is here. And that brings me now to this point. In our healing work, we have specific principles of healing. And yet throughout the writings, I assure you that these principles won't heal. And in case you wonder what their function is to develop the healing state of consciousness in us. They're not meant to heal. They're meant, of course they won't. I can illustrate that for you in 2 seconds. All you have to do is to know that God is all in all, and that evil of any nature is purely illusion, and you have the secret of the mystical life and the healing work. And as you now know, it hasn't done a thing for you. And yet there it is. That's the truth. And let this be the lesson. The effect of truth is not in the knowing of it intellectually, but in the experiencing of it spiritually. Therefore, and this really should have been a basic instruction in every one of the metaphysical teachings, and I don't know how it was ever missed. Truth does not heal. Truth does not enrich. Truth does not improve. Truth does nothing. Truth realized does. God does nothing for this world. This world has been eaten up with wars, with disease, with famine, with plagues. You don't notice God being much concerned about it. We have had murders, we have had rape, we have had every crime in the calendar against mankind, and God does nothing about it. But this is not true where God is realized. Then God does something about it. God prevents it, or heals it, or reforms it. In other words, it isn't God that does it. It is the realization of God that does it, or what is called spiritual discernment. Therefore, the letter of truth, which is so necessary, is necessary not to heal or correct or reform. It is necessary to bring about an evolution or an evolving of our consciousness from its material base to its spiritual base. In other words, if we abide in this truth, that God is closer to me than breathing, nearer than hands and feet, that I and my Father are one, and all that the Father hath is mine, and because of omnipotence, omnipresence, omniscience, what we call this mesmeric dream, this mortal sense, is not power. Now, as we would abide in that, live with it, keep it active in our consciousness, it changes our consciousness from its material base, brings it over to a spiritual foundation, and then the miracle that happens is this: we are given the power of discernment. And that means exactly this. If I look out here with my physical eyes, I'm aware of men and women, and I'm aware of young ones and middle-aged ones and old ones, and I'm aware of sick ones and well ones, But you see, that is not the truth of being. That is why sin, disease, death can go on and on and on and on, because we see only with our eyes or hear only with our ears, and we perpetuate this picture. But now, let an individual appear who has been given some measure of this grace or spiritual discernment, and he does not look out here and judge according to appearances, but always through this spiritual faculty, he or she is able to discern you as you are, the spiritual reality of you. Not just a cliche, not just a statement out of a book, but an actual discernment that reveals that you in reality, in essence, your real being is God. God manifested and expressed. But this is not a statement. This is an actual discernment of something that's out there and just as tangible as your physical appearance. And it is this discernment of your true nature, your true identity, that brings to light the healing, the health, the supply, whatever appears to be lacking. What it really brings out is it raises up the Son of God in you. It doesn't heal you of anything. It doesn't reform you of anything. It doesn't supply you with anything. It raises up the Son of God in you. And when the Son of God is raised up in you, it functions. I live, yet not I. Christ liveth my life. Christ, that's the Son of God. And so when your divine sonship has been raised up through the power of, always remember, it is the consciousness of an individual that does it. There has to be a Moses of spiritual enlightenment, of spiritual discernment, to get the Hebrews out of slavery under Pharaoh. Pharaoh has the army. Pharaoh has the power. The Hebrews have nothing but weakness and slavery, ignorance, poverty. And Moses has got nothing except the grace of God. And with the grace of God, he does what an army couldn't have done. He gets those Hebrew people out of Egypt, out of Pharaoh's power. And he does it without an army. He does it without force. He does it by an inner grace. There has to be a Jesus Christ to heal the sick, to raise the dead, to forgive the sinner. In other words, this spiritual discernment must be individualized as one of us. A man on earth, a woman on earth. And it can be 1,000,000 men and 1,000,000 women. The more there are, the sooner the entire world will be spiritualized. But remember that the power of resurrection, and that is the name of this class, the power of resurrection is in the Son of God. And the Son of God is your true identity and mine. And the Son of God raised up in you is the power of resurrection onto your body, onto the lost years of the locust, onto your business, onto your art, onto your profession, whatever it is. The Son of God raised up in you is that presence and that power, and the Son of God is raised up in you by virtue of one or more who have been given that spiritual discernment even in a measure. And that is why I have said that the very fact that there are at least a couple of dozen in this room of those who have been lifted up that far into spiritual discernment, have been the Son of God has been lifted up in them to where Christ governs their lives rather than the law. It is that reason that this entire class is lifted up higher than itself, higher than it was before it came together. In other words, where two or more are gathered together in my name, there am I, the Son of God. And that Son of God in you, it isn't floating around in space. The Son of God, when it's here, is here in you. And so it is. The raising up in you of the Son of God is the attainment of your demonstration. Your demonstration is not good health or good wealth or good companionship or good home. Your demonstration is not freedom. Your demonstration is the raising up of the Son of God in you. And it is attained through the first stage, in which you make yourself consciously aware of the presence and power and influence of God. Entering the second stage, where you realize your inadequacy as a human being, and you consciously make effort to fulfill yourself in those 10 commandments and make of yourself a worthy human. And with the combination of these two, this transitional experience of the raising up of the Son of God in you takes place. When it does, and even in a measure, you have this experience, this feeling of the presence, you can then say, I live, yet not I. There is a spirit in me that doeth the work. The Father within me, he doeth the works. The Father, the presence, goes before me to make the crooked places straight. This presence goes to prepare mansions for me. I of my own self can do nothing, but oh, the Father within me, he really doeth the works. And I abide in stillness, in quietness. I abide in peace, knowing that as I go about my work all day long, there is another presence working with me, in me, through me, an invisible, and in outer sense, an intangible, but a very, very real substance, activity. And I, in my own work, in my own life, I call it grace. Grace. I call it a living by grace. I call it all things being done by grace. My class being brought together by grace, not by power, not by might, not by advertising, not by cleverness. A grace brings those together, just those together, who can receive and respond what is poured out through me. By grace, publishers are raised up who publish the writings. By grace, all of these things have transpired in my experience, because there never was enough of humanhood to go out and bring them about. So it is, I know, through this experience and the experience of those with whom I've worked these many years, that the raising up of the Son of God in them is the full and complete demonstration. Beyond that, we need not go. In other words, as long as I can feel, as long as I can have the awareness of the presence of God in me, my life is fulfilled. Even if I should be commanded to go without purse or script, as indeed I have been at times in my life, still I arrive. And so do you. From now on, please remember, the very goal of all infinite way work is the raising up of the Son of God in you. There's nothing else. When that has been attained, you will have attained spiritual home, spiritual harmony, spiritual wholeness, spiritual abundance, and nothing will be lacking on the outer plane either. The attainment of the inner grace is the demonstration of the outer good. Do not let your thought dwell unduly or with concern on the outer phase of the demonstration, but rather maintain yourself wholly in the realization that the goal is this raising up of the Son of God in you. And the reason you know it takes place, or whereby you know it takes place, is this: in your meditation, this click, this contact, this release, something, I can't describe it. It differs 10 times a day in 10 experiences. It's never the same twice. But always you can be assured, the question was asked, how do you know when the Christ presence has been attained? You know because it makes itself known. It leaves you unmistakably knowing that there is now a hidden manna. There is now a meat the world knows not of. There is a being, a presence, a power, an inner joy that outer circumstances cannot take from you. And as a matter of fact, that outer circumstances, no matter how good, cannot give you, because it is spiritual in its nature. In healing work, then, you give your treatment, and we will take up our treatment before this week is over. You'll give your treatment as conscientiously as you can, but you will realize that your treatment isn't meant to heal anybody, and it won't. Your treatment is aimed to lift you to the state of consciousness in which you discern Christhood, in which you discern the spiritual presence. And that's all you have to do. When you've attained that, when you have that feeling of that inner peace, the harmony, the thing will take place on the outer plane. Well, here we are again, and let's all pray very diligently tonight that this grace will be with us tomorrow night and have something to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. So it's great. It's like he doesn't know what he's going to say the next morning or the next day. So it's all given, and that's what you know, how Joel is sharing this with us. So this is a great class. I'm really happy that we got this tape too, because there's a lot in there. So you received the transcript too, and it's really great to read it or to go through it, because it's like a summary of the Infinite Way material with very specific instruction regarding that you have to receive this for yourself. The attainment is in the receiving. It's not in trying to make it work or trying to get it together or anything like that. And that cannot be emphasized enough, is what I think, because I've seen many people coming to me with like, I can't experience the click, or I don't know how to do that. Well, there's not a doing on your part. There's an undoing on your part by you releasing your thoughts about everything that's going on. But basically, see, here's always individual responsibility. What is the biggest change that needs to occur? Where does that take place? Within me. If I allow the Son of God to be erased in my consciousness, that literally, say, shines the light into my dream, into everyone that I meet, into everywhere I go. And that's the only thing that matters. I don't need to tell anyone how to do this in that sense. So this comes down to me. I have to receive this for myself. In that I extend it, I give it away. That's the only requirement. Simple as that. So, and that's a great responsibility for one thing, but it's also where your greatest joy is. And as Joel says in the end too, it's like this experience of grace, this experience of the confirmation that there's light within you that the world knows not of, but by you receiving it, you literally like extend it into this world, because you're literally the embodiment of it in that moment. In that moment, you're not protecting yourself. In that moment, you're not trying to get more. In that moment, you're not trying to become healthy or not trying to do anything. No, you just allow grace to be in your consciousness. So that's where everything happens. But you fulfill a function that is totally different from your previous function as a human being, where you try to survive and try to make ends meet or do whatever you do. But that is a different quality. So that's what you start to recognize. But basically, by experiencing this, the certainty grows that this is the only reliable source within you. Like the outer world starts to bleaken, like you start to lose interest in it and see the meaninglessness of the goals that the world that you have literally lived out in the world. It starts to have no meaning at all. So that makes everything different. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for being present in this class, in this moment. Next week we meet for one more Tree of Life meeting. And then the week after we continue with the key lessons of the Infinite Way. It is about time that we take a really good look in 10 steps to the key lessons of the Infinite Way. So I'm looking forward to continue with you participating in it, so we can really dive deep, one key lesson per meeting, with an connected tape that literally expresses it beautifully. And so, yeah, it just doesn't stop, does it? It's so amazing how this opens up. It keeps presenting itself. It is continuously given to do it this way and to give it. So thank you for your part in that, and I hope to see you next week in the next episode. Thank you for everything. Thank you so much.